Hey there YouTube, welcome to Big Mike Beard Wisdom. So today we're tackling a little bit of intake noise and that's making some intake noise as opposed to what the car does now. So the car is really quiet. So I shot a quick video looking at the sound meter to see just how quiet it is, what's going down the road. And a lot of that is because of the stock air intake. So this is a relatively simple intake setup. There's no mass airflow in between here. It's just airbox, resonator system underneath the airbox stuff, hose into like the first throttle body. And for the 2003 Acura TL Type S, the easiest way to get to the lower part of the intake is actually taking this bumper cover out. And then to get that out, I'm going to want to pull probably this black piece up here off. This is pretty simple, it just has these trim clips where you can use like the pliers, like what I have in the toolbox, but just kind of too lazy to walk over and get, or you can use a screwdriver to do that. Just kind of pop that center section off and take this other part off. Easy peasy. Now if you run into a situation like this one, so that head's popped clean off, another trick that you can do is to find the centerpiece and force the centerpiece up and through that other piece. So just kind of push it up with a screwdriver, and then it might make it easier if you actually fish that broken centerpiece out through the top. Then you can just pull this out, and now that's nice and loose. And then once you get all that upper piece removed, mine was pretty easy. You want to go ahead and pull out the ones that actually attach to like the bumper itself. So there's quite a few underneath, so kind of like that stubborn one that I had. And there should be one on the other side too, and several that kind of go to the like that lower air deflector. These two up here more or less attach to the grill, and the grill attaches to the bumper down inside of there. So with that loose, this is all wobbly, wiggly. So that should be pretty good. And once you get all these little trim clips off, you need to go in search of, I think they're 10mm bolts. Over here in the fender well, where the fender and the bumper cover meet, you'll have attachment points, and I believe that's just a little 10mm bolt, or it might be smaller. It's smaller, but this one's not. So down here, that's definitely a 10. And you may or may not have something that attaches the front bumper cover to the inner fender liner. But real quick, I'll take loose this bolt here. So there should be two of these, one on each side. Because this goes to the inner fender liner as well. Alright, that one's loose. And this one actually feels like it broke loose of the inner fender liner. This wound up being an 8mm. Shazam. And then now comes the interesting part. So on my TL, you can see right here, that's where that bolt went into. We can walk over here, you can kind of see right about there, there's a little bit of something, and that's just a little finger that kind of holds the bumper cover. So you should be able to just pull it out. You can see there's the hole the finger goes into, there's the finger. So whenever you go to reinstall it, it'll basically be lining this up, pushing that in, that way it snaps in, and you should be good to go. And you can kind of see the bumper cover's pretty loose. Alright, then once you get the bolts loose on both sides, you can pretty much pop that bumper cover off. I recommend setting it on something where it's not going to get scratched, because even though it's kind of a rougher car, I don't want to get too much rougher. So I'm just setting it over there. That's kind of like a weird like styrofoam, polypropylene, something or other. Basically it goes underneath pavers, so nice and soft, similar to like the foam right there for the impact bumper. And you can pretty much see now how big the air intake resonator is. And the resonator is designed to help fight noise. So I'm going to go ahead and pop this sucker out. It looks like there's a bolt right there, and I think there's a bolt back in there. I took this upper intake lid part off. There's a bolt back here. You can see down inside of here, you can kind of see into that resonator part. And there's another bolt just right there that holds this lower part of the box in place. So with that removed, you can see here's the resonator. Looks like it has a little intake deal right inside of there. So it kind of jays back up into this engine bay to suck air in. That goes down into that chamber, up into this chamber, through the bottom part of that, through your air filter, into the air intake. So if you really wanted to make yourself a cheap homemade cold air intake, you could essentially either cut a hole in this, that way it sucks down from like as low as possible, or maybe the front part of it, because that would be over by here, where's like the fog light is and stuff like that. Otherwise, you could, you know, find a way to live with keeping this pipe in place. I don't really want to keep this pipe in place though. So I removed the little 10mm bolt that holds that to this one. So essentially everything's put backable. I haven't done anything bad yet. And then I'm just going to jam this, I think, down through the hole, because it doesn't seem like there's a really good way to get that out through the top. I'm going to set them bolts. So yep, pretty easy just to jam that down through the bottom. So basically, here's everything all put together outside of the car. You can see it's kind of interesting. So air would have gone in through there, sucked some air straight through to the other side, because this is open in between. Some of it would have gone through here, which is pretty unique. And then it's definitely a baffly kind of area. As well as possibly allowing for like water drainage should it catch water from right behind that headlight like it was. But with this upward angle, it would have had to have like kind of gone up and over the headlight and around this plastic shield to get to it. So now the way I'm going to install this is just like this. So just with this one. With just this in place, it's going to be sucking pretty close to near that hole down there. So definitely a chance of more dirt. This whole kind of system would have drawn from up high up here. So if I want to get into a similar situation where I hit enough water that it gets up to here, I've done screwed something up. Because anytime the water is that high in an engine bay, the coil packs are there, let alone the water on the belts can easily slip a belt off and leave you in a world of hurt as well. So I'm pretty comfortable with this. And if anybody doesn't like the way it sounds, or if I don't like the way it sounds, I can always put it back to stock in about 10 minutes, just popping it all back together. With that in place, You can see it'll be sucking air through there. So you can see the air filter up in there. It'll be sucking it through this wheel well area. Kind of isolated and insulated from the radiator by these shields. But you can definitely see not more insulated from dirt. So something like this, you should expect that filter to get dirtier faster and either need to be replaced or cleaned more often depending on what route you go as far as filters go. And then when it comes to reinstalling the bumper, I always like to kind of leave the corners down low. Bring your center in, that way everything kind of goes where it's supposed to. And it reduces the risk of you like scratching the fenders and stuff like that. So like this car had plenty of scratches to begin with, and that's an old one, you can tell from the rust on it. So, but it kind of allows you to set it in place without scratching the car. Otherwise, throwing a little bit of masking tape on the fenders will help protect it as well. And then just install your bolts, install your push pins, and get everything back in where it's supposed to be. And then once you get everything in place, the last little thing that I can kind of see is there's a little bitty, like, almost like it wants to be an air inlet right here. So on that bumper, you could almost cut that out if you wanted to, maybe allow a little bit more air, but you're also going to allow in a little bit maybe water, a little more dirt, a little more debris, maybe a bird. Definitely interesting sound to it. It'll be interesting to see if it's a little bit louder on the noise meter, but at least now you can actually hear when it hits a VTEC, and also like when the butterflies open the intake. And then the neat thing that I really can't capture very well is probably the sound it makes when you have your windows down too, while you're going down the road. So the VTEC noise that you get inside the car is of a certain pitch. With the noise you get outside the car, that's a much different pitch. And it sounds pretty cool when you kind of, you know, stick your head out the window a little bit as you're going down the road. So, definitely a thing that I'm glad I did. I like to be able to hear the motor, especially something that has VTEC or variable intake. I really love the sounds that makes and being able to hear it. The car in general is relatively quiet. So any kind of noise and excitement is always nice. Besides the sound of the squealing tires. It's never had a problem making those noises. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll check you next time.